All right. So in this week, we're going to go over a Bitcoin realistic prediction using some realistic scenario models. But first, I kind of just want to take a look at where we currently are with Bitcoin in the market. And keep in mind, Bitcoin's a key indicator for the entire market. If Bitcoin goes up, usually the rest of the market follows. Now, Bill just talked about how we could see a situation where Bitcoin takes off and there's a delay or a lag for altcoins to follow. And altcoins don't come with it immediately. But again, if Bitcoin goes down, usually it takes the whole market with it. So this is just Bitcoin's price charted out all the way back to 2012. And I've imposed some logarithmic regression lines that I like to use to tell me whether or not it's a good time to accumulate or sell or take profits on Bitcoin. Historically, it's been a great time to accumulate between the yellow and the green bands. And anytime we're over the red band, it's been Bitcoin's been in a bubble. And it's been a good time to take profits. Now, just because we're currently in a bubble, obviously doesn't mean we can't go a lot higher. Look at the past two bubbles that we saw. If you'd have taken profits immediately after breaking through the red band, you missed out on a lot of value. So we can go a lot higher. And I think Bitcoin's actually poised to go up much, much higher. So I wanted to take a moment to analyze a pattern that we're seeing repeat itself from 2017, right before Bitcoin ran from around $3,000 here down at the bottom, all the way to its all-time high at the time of $19,600 or so, right? We came up and we made a new all-time high, followed by a dip, followed by a second all-time high, followed by a smaller dip, followed by a third all-time high. But this third all-time high wasn't much higher than its previous high, followed by a retest of this neckline. Now, this retest was, if you remember all the way back to 2017, this was related to a lot of FUD articles about people panicking regarding the Bitcoin Cash fork right before, I believe, August of 2017. Once it retested and established support on its previous all-time high, we rallied from 3,000 to 19,600. It went parabolic, and it did this over the course of about 91 days. That's only 3 months. Now, I've looked at Bitcoin's pattern and recognized the same pattern coming together right now over the last month or so. We made an all-time high. I believe this was 42,000. We had a correction, broke through the neckline, made an all-time high again. Had a smaller correction, and then made a third all-time high slightly above our previous all-time high. Now, the question is, and this is where I think Bill's alluding to that we need to be careful, is this going to come back down and retest the neckline? Now, in 2017, it retested the neckline, but it was kind of artificially forced down there by this Bitcoin Cash fork FUD. Now, we could always get a FUD article that comes out and pushes us down and retests here. I do think, though, if we can hold support here, or maybe this was our support down here earlier, and we've already made this and we're poised to go higher, that Bitcoin could potentially go parabolic. All right, so let's shift over, and I'm going to bring all of this together for the Bitcoin the Bitcoin price prediction. Let's take a look at where the total market is and where Bitcoin's sitting in terms of dominance. Now, this is just altcoin dominance. So as this goes up, as this chart increases, Bitcoin dominance is decreasing. It's just the inverse. But I want to look at this because there's two trends or two patterns that I want to draw to your attention. The first is the fact that altcoin dominance has been on a trend line increasing over time, right? This blue trend line shows that altcoin dominance has been increasing, and that's completely logical that over time, Bitcoin dominance would decrease. Why? Because there's hundreds of new altcoins coming onto the market every single week. A lot of them deserve or are worthy of investment, right? Cardano, one of those that is going to eventually steal some market dominance away from Bitcoin. Ethereum, one that's already stolen a lot of market dominance. These good altcoin projects that are coming onto the market, they're going to steal away some market dominance or some market share from the total cryptocurrency market cap away from Bitcoin over time. So we would expect that altcoin dominance over the long run should increase, and it has been doing so with the occasional bubble. Now, I do think that we are potentially in a place where we could see an altcoin bubble. We're seeing this, it's called an expanding triangle pattern, and usually it's a reversal pattern, right? And it would be reversing this big downtrend that we were in, coming down from the bubble, right? And it could push us higher. Now, a lot of times, I believe these expanding triangles have 5 to 7 waves, but sometimes they have 9 waves. And I do think that if what Bill was talking about, where we do see altcoins suffer, we could see a potential 8th and 9th wave in this expanding triangle, where maybe altcoins do a fake out, Bitcoin goes on a parabolic run up and drives altcoin dominance way down, and we see this expanding triangle make an 8th wave and then a 9th wave before potentially going on a full altcoin season up to higher altcoin dominance numbers. This is just the exact same chart, except for its Bitcoin dominance. Bitcoin dominance is just the inverse of altcoin dominance. So we're seeing the same thing. It's just decreasing. Now, in order to construct a matrix for our price prediction scenario models, we're just talking about, or we're just going to pick some realistic Bitcoin dominance percentages that we could see the market peak at this market cycle, right? So we're currently at about 60% Bitcoin dominance. Now, in the short term, I do believe that could go up as Bill was talking about, and Bitcoin could outrun altcoins. But at the peak of the market, should we consider to see trillions of dollars pour into the total cryptocurrency market cap, I don't think that Bitcoin dominance at the peak of the market will be any higher than it is right now at about 60%. And the reason I think that is because historically, the market, Bitcoin's price has peaked with a lower dominance because altcoins like to chase Bitcoin as well. So my high scenario for Bitcoin dominance this market cycle is 60%. Should we see the market, the total cryptocurrency market continue to play out in a bullish market cycle? Now, we could see altcoin dominance come in and altcoin season come in and push this Bitcoin dominance lower. And I've built in scenarios all the way down to this trend line here, down to 50%, 40%, and 30%. All right. Then we've also got our 3 total cryptocurrency market cap scenarios, which if you've watched any videos on the Token Metrics YouTube channel, or you tuned into the last week's or 2 weeks ago, the live stream, you've seen this chart before. This is just the total cryptocurrency market cap. Currently, we're on a very aggressive trajectory up towards hitting $5 trillion in total cryptocurrency market cap by sometime in late July. We're currently at about $1.7 trillion in total cryptocurrency market cap, and we continue to climb. Now, historically, the total cryptocurrency market cap has been going up on a linear trend line on a logarithmic chart, which equates to exponential growth in the cryptocurrency space. So the cryptocurrency space as a whole has been growing exponentially over time, but occasionally it gets these massive bubbles where it becomes overvalued, and Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies become overbought against the trend line. These are bull markets. Back in 2013 and 2014, it was 1,600% overvalued against the trend line. Back in 2017 and 2018, when Bitcoin hit its all-time high of 19,600, it was about 2,600% overvalued against the trend line, the total cryptocurrency space. Now we're on a trajectory where if we continued all the way up to $10 trillion by sometime late July, maybe in August, we would only be 1,400% overvalued against the trend line. So I do think while $10 trillion in total cryptocurrency market cap is a bullish scenario, I do think it's realistic and possible if this market starts to go parabolic like it has in the past. Now, I wouldn't want to get much more bullish than that. I wouldn't want to take into account a 20 trillion or even a $25 trillion market cap because I think that would be getting way too ahead of ourselves. I don't know that we'll see a 2,600% overvaluation against this trend line again, especially if we start moving fast. All right, so if we take our market dominances for Bitcoin, our market dominance scenarios for Bitcoin between 30 and 60%, and then we multiply them out by our total cryptocurrency market caps, and then divide by our total supply of Bitcoin. And I have taken into account the fact that about 900 new Bitcoin per day enter the market, and extrapolated that out to that inflation out to about July or August. It's only going to affect us a few dollars in either direction, a few fractions of a percent in either direction, but it did include inflation in this model. So our most bearish scenario would be that we've essentially already hit the top and we're just going to see a big alt season run. And that would force Bitcoin down to about $48,000, but the total cryptocurrency market cap would continue to rise to about $3 trillion, most of which would be going into altcoins. I don't think that's the scenario that's going to play out at all. But in the scenario model, that's our bottom parameter. Now, our most bullish scenario would be a $10 trillion market cap and Bitcoin fully maintaining the 60% dominance that it currently has and not really giving an inch to altcoins. And this is a scenario more like I think Bill was talking about earlier, where we would see all of the new money or most of the new money come into altcoins and Bitcoin at roughly an even ratio, but favoring Bitcoin. And Bitcoin would be holding its market dominance at 60%. That would result in roughly a $319,000, $320,000 Bitcoin. Now, I have heard predictions in that range. I think that is probably the absolute most bullish prediction for me, most bullish scenario for me personally for Bitcoin. I've heard predictions of a super cycle of Bitcoin going to 500K or $1 million. Now, personally, based off of the numbers and the charts and the scenarios that we've built in here, I don't think that those are realistic scenarios. I don't think we're doing ourselves any favors by hoping that Bitcoin goes to 500K or $1 million. Could it maybe happen? Yes, but we would want to see more from Bitcoin in the short term. We would want to see Bitcoin go to 200 or 300K before we can even consider it going to 500K or $1 million, right? For me personally, if you had to ask me what my prediction was for Bitcoin this market cycle, I would say $133,000 a peak. I would say that altcoins in the long term, and of course, Bitcoin may take off here and force altcoins down, altcoin dominance down, like Bill was talking about. But by the time the market peaks, if we get a $5 trillion total cryptocurrency market cap, which is a little bit over 2.5 times where we're currently at, I think $133,000 Bitcoin is quite reasonable, if not pretty likely, right? That would be forcing Bitcoin dominance down to 50%. Altcoin dominance would be coming up from 40% to 50%. And that would put Bitcoin at $133,000. Now, I do think some of these other scenarios are completely valid and worth looking into. But if you just had to ask me for my opinion, I think $133,000 Bitcoin is reasonable this market cycle. So this is just that same data fitted to a chart rather than a table. We've got our $10 trillion scenario up here, our $5 trillion scenario in yellow, and our more conservative scenario of $3 trillion in market cap this market cycle in red down here. Now, we also have our corresponding Bitcoin dominance scenarios down at the bottom here. Now, I just wanted to go over 2 or 3 charts really quickly to talk about why I think Bitcoin could be poised to go parabolic and why I think that these scenarios that I've modeled out could be somewhat accurate based off of some other charts. This is the stock to flow model. And I know that the stock to flow model, there's a lot of disagreement about whether or not it should accurately be applied to Bitcoin. I believe that we're in a time where it could be becoming more accurate over time. I've superimposed these trend lines here that shows that the variance of the model is decreasing and the model is actually extremely accurate right now. We're exactly on it. Now, over time in the long term, as we move towards the next bull market cycle, I think that the corresponding numbers for Bitcoin, reach $1 million, $10 million in the future, that we could see variance, especially to the downside, in that the model could be overestimating Bitcoin's price. But I did want to talk about the variance that we've seen in Bitcoin's price over the projected stock to flow model. In 2014 or 2013, it was 7x over the projected stock to flow model. We saw that cut in half last market cycle to 3.5x. And if we saw that cut in half again to 1.75x this market cycle, that would put Bitcoin at a peak price of $147,000, which is pretty in line with the scenarios that we just predicted. Now, if we saw a 3.5x variance again, overshooting this by 3.5x like we did last market cycle, that would be our closer to 300K Bitcoin scenario. Now, two more charts really quick. We've got our percent monthly increase of the 200-week moving average. All right. And this is just showing to me that we might not be anywhere close to the top yet. Right. So this is just measuring how fast the 200-week moving average is going up. And you can see recently we just got our first greenish yellow dot. Now, historically, Bitcoin peaks with a red dot on this chart. All right. So we're getting to the point where last market cycle, we went parabolic. Remember that pattern that I showed you from 2017 in one of the first slides that is repeating itself. We're seeing a similar shade or percent speed increase of the 200-week moving average now that we were seeing back in that time right before we went parabolic in 2017. Now, lastly, I just want to look at this chart of the Bitcoin reserve risk. Now, historically, the Bitcoin reserve risk, and the Bitcoin reserve risk is just the ratio of the price of Bitcoin or the incentive to sell Bitcoin versus hodler strength. And hodler strength by Glassnode, I believe, is just measured by the number of days that Bitcoin has been stagnant in a hodler's wallet, right? So eventually, the price gets so high that a lot of hodlers decide to take profits because the incentive to sell and take profits is so high. Now, that incentive or this relationship of reserve risk historically has peaked when Bitcoin's price has peaked. It's been in this red range right here. We are not currently in that red range. I believe that we still have quite a ways to go on Bitcoin before the hodlers decide to take profits. And when the hodlers decide to take profits, that's when Bitcoin is probably peaked. All right, so that's my Bitcoin realistic price scenario model. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope it was helpful.
Token Metrics is a cryptocurrency investment platform that helps users leverage machine learning to become better crypto investors. Our in-depth analysis helps eliminate the emotions of investing, find profitable investment opportunities, and filters out scams. Learn more at tokenmetrics.com.